10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
There's no need to fear.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, cause I'm black.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Super Black, an all-black panel podcasting experience where we talk about all things superhero, past, present, and future. From Marvel and DC to anime, there is no stone we will leave unturned as we take a deep dive into the genre of superpowered individuals and the worlds they inhabit. I am your friendly neighborhood host, Zuri Washington. I use she, her pronouns, and you can follow me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. That's Zuri with a Z, not Suri with an S. I'll leave it to the rest of today's super panel to introduce themselves. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Michael Andreas. You can find me on Instagram at Michael_Andreas. You can also find me around the country performing with Ain't Too Proud, The Life and Times of the Temptations.
Hi, my name is Omar. You can catch me on Twitter at Copyright. You can catch me on IG at original_gamester. I'm just excited to talk about the first movie that I've gone to see on opening weekend since Endgame.
Hey, what's going on? This is Sky's World, music artist and actor out of New York and Wonderland. Excited to talk about this new amazing movie. You can follow me on Twitter at Sky's World, SKYESWORD, and on Instagram, in Sky's World, INSKYESWORLD.
And don't forget to follow the podcast itself on IG at Super Black Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter at Super Podcast. Now that we're all assembled, let's get started. So today, as we alluded to, we are talking Multiverse of Madness. It finally happened, everyone. I've been dreaming about this movie for months, for possibly years. And it was opening weekend. This past weekend. This is coming. I'm doing a lot of editing tonight so that I can get this out for our listeners tomorrow. So thank you and you're welcome to everyone. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. I would just like to say first and foremost that I liked this a lot better than the first Doctor Strange movie, just overall. I was not the biggest fan, and I love Benedict Cumberbatch. Love. With every ounce and fiber of my being, I have loved Benedict Cumberbatch. So I was a little disappointed in the first Doctor Strange. So this was much better for my money. But someone else talk about the movie.
Yeah, I'll go. I really liked it. I especially enjoyed it visually. I thought it was just stunning. It was Sam Raimi definitely put his fingerprints all over this film in the camera work and the jump scares, and they said it was going to be the MCU's first horror film, and they did not lie when that, as far as that was concerned. I think I liked the first Doctor Strange maybe a little bit more. I think maybe the most disappointing thing for me in the first Doctor Strange movie was that villain at the end, the CGI. That was weird for me. But overall, yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I really, really liked it. So those are my initial impressions.
Sky, what were you going to say?
I definitely agree with Michael, actually. Because the night before, I was like, all right, let me do my cram session again. Myself caught up again. So I was like, watching, then, watch What If episodes again, then watch like the featurettes are great on Disney Plus. I'm not sure if y'all watch. It's like a 10-minute featurette. Like, all right, this was going to eat there. Loved it. So that helped me get pumped for Multiverse of Madness. And I was watching. I was like, all right, it was a lot. It was definitely madness. It was so crazy. Definitely Sam Raimi all over it. It's hard. All right, I gotta go to the bathroom, but I don't want to miss nothing. So I'll just sit here and watch everything.
Just muscle through it.
Yeah, listen. And I was like, I'm out of here. But um, the it was something about this film, which I love because I love Wanda. Look, listen, I'm like I love Wanda. These the cartoon, the whole has here. So
Mhm.
I'm like, there was something about it. I thought Wanda MVP in the movie to me. To be quite
Yes.
honest, she was Elizabeth Olsen
Yeah.
destroyed this film, and I loved her art.
Mhm.
Um, and it was something interesting at the end of it. I was I love the film, but something felt like it was missing to me, even after the end credits scene, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was exactly. It's like what certain Marvel movies, of course, you end up leaving, and you're just like, all right, whatever's next could be crazy. Da, da, da. This, I was like, okay, all right. I don't know what I'm waiting for next, but it's gonna be something, but I don't know what it is. So,
Sure.
but yeah, that's the feeling I
That's
left with.
true. I agree. We'll get into the post credit scene
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
But Omar, what were your thoughts first?
Um, yeah. So the movie, I feel the movie was good. I didn't feel it was great. Definitely not amazing. I felt it was good. It was 7.5 for me. I think that's a solid rating. I don't think there's anything to be upset about. It's worth going to see, right? It was it was not exactly what I expected, but and I guess it wasn't what I expected because there was absolutely zero tie-in to No Way Home. Zero. And that threw me off, right? Because I was expecting there to be some penalty for what happened, but there was none. But overall, I did enjoy the movie. A lot of jump scares, Sam Raimi all over it. It was Evil Dead mixed with Doctor Strange all the way, right? And the Army of Darkness, that was it. And the cameos were interesting, kind of cool, but just more interesting than I felt they were cool. They're just action packed all the way through. It was very interesting, the different how they chose to display different things and different universes, which I guess we'll get into shortly. But and as to Ryan's point, sorry, as to Sky's point in the end, um it's I would say for me it was a lack of excitement as to what's to come, because the camp factor, while entertaining throughout, the end it seemed to kind of go in a direction where it's just going to be like funny, kind of like what they're trying to do with Thor, and it just didn't really sit well. That the very last scene. So yeah, we'll get into all that.
Yeah, so let's kind of try our best to go from the beginning, I guess. So we're dealing with Doctor Strange in our universe, or sorry, not in our universe, in the wherever they are in space and time, but that version of Doctor Strange being with America Chavez, running through, trying to get to the Book of Ashanti, um, which was exciting to see them. It was exciting to see them get into like more into the mystic part of the Marvel cinematic universe, because I've been not begging for Marvel. I knew Marvel was going to get there, but it's something that I've always been sad about with DC, because they're so into the grit and the realism that they don't want to explore things like Clayface, that they don't want to explore the things that make the universe like really really interesting. Like Merlin is a part of Batman's universe, and the fact that you don't want to explore that is weird to me. But oh well. But so I was really excited that we were getting into that. I knew based off of Doctor Strange is a hard sell, right, to a lot of average uh moviegoers who are not MCU heads. Even they're just like people who go to the movies and they're like, oh, Benedict Cumberbatch is in a movie, let me go to see it. Like, so you have to it was crazy because the movie's only 2 hours and 6 minutes long. It felt longer to me because I felt like they slowed down a lot of thought processes in order for people to catch up.
Mhm.
They were like,
Mhm.
did you see that? Did you get it? Look, magic is happening, and it's happening slow so that you can understand with your dumb pea brain. That's what it felt like a lot of the time. And but in any case, I was really I'm really excited because we have another young Avenger added to the storyline right from the start. This movie did not do a slow build up
Right.
in terms of the action
no.
to the story.
No,
So
they jumped right in it.
I really appreciated it for that. And because when I say I didn't like the first, I can't even pinpoint honestly why I didn't like the first Doctor Strange. And I've seen it, I think, 3 times. And every time I watch it, I'm just like, I don't know, something about it just doesn't like grab me in the same way. And it's not because it's not the humor. It's not the humor in the MCU that makes me want to watch the MCU. So I don't know what it is about it. But
I tell you what, I love Mordo. Like Mordo
fair.
is such a badass,
And she would
especially
tell
in that
Edge
movie.
4.
And yes, he's so good, and the way he's portrayed, he's just got so much strength and like this like quiet confidence about him, and I just love his character. And I think maybe that's a little bit of what was if I want to talk about a little bit, something that was a little disappointing for me about this one was that we really didn't get to see the continuation of that thread. Like we got to see this bad version. They built up to this bad, like I'm gonna wreck the wizard world version of Mordo at the end
Right.
of Doctor Strange, and then the Mordo that we meet in this one is from a different universe who has no connection to this universe as Doctor Strange, and so we don't get to see the continuation of that thread. That was something that was disappointing for me on a personal level, just because I love that character so much, and I love the direction they were going with him at the end of the first Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
and then we never see him. Like we never see him in this movie at all. So that was a little disappointing for me.
I think no, go Omar.
Yeah, I like the first Doctor Strange, probably for the same reason I liked the first Captain America movie. Not that I liked Captain America, the first one, better than the others, but I liked it where a lot of people didn't, because it tried to hold true to the origin story, right?
Sure.
And so for those reasons, I didn't feel the execution was bad. It may not be to people's liking, but I didn't feel the execution was bad. Of course, I agree with Michael in that the Dormammu was poorly put
Executed.
into that movie, kind of like Galactus was in that Fantastic Four movie. Terrible,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's a great
yeah,
comparison.
yeah, but going back to Mordo and wanting to see more of his character, that disconnect there, I think with Doctor Strange, like you said, it's a hard sell. It's hard selling just what I guess would be called a magician or a wizard, because typically that can be in any movie, especially Harry Potter. So it's like, how do you sell that in a universe where most people's powers or their superheroism comes from something scientific?
Right.
And so I get where that is a hard sell. So that's why they had to inject. I guess they felt they had to inject other characters heavily into this movie to carry it. Sometimes they just don't know what to do with characters like Hulk, like Thor, which is what they're trying to do with Thor. They just don't know what to do with them, so they just throw a bunch of other stuff in it.
That was one of my pet peeves, that Michael, with including our Earth 16 version of Mordo in it, like even toward the ending, because I was like, all right, that was one thing that I felt that was missing. I was like, all right, I don't know what's going on, because even watching Doctor Strange 1 the night before again, I was like, oh, okay, so he should be next one. Maybe we'll see him, even though we see this other multiverse version of him, we'll see this continued, and it wasn't.
When Doctor Strange was introduced, it was clear to me he was introduced in order to further the universe and not for his own purposes. Does that make sense? So I think that his story, his general story, got lost in telling the larger story of the MCU. And I think that if I did not think that I didn't think Mordo was going to be in this movie, or at least not our version. And the continuation of that through line, I did not think that was going to happen based off of everything else we have seen thus far, because I think Mordo should have appeared in a different movie. Like in any other movie, even for 5 seconds. Like, even if it's just like hearing about a character that when someone describes them, you're like, is that Mordo? Maybe it's Mordo. You know what I mean? But they never even addressed it. I've heard I'm curious what the director's cut, because I think this was a solid movie. I don't think it suffers from Zack Snyder syndrome, but I'm curious what the director's cut is, because what I've heard is that they took out 40 minutes of the movie, like in
That,
last minute.
that would
Like
be
pretty.
very interesting. Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see what was taken out. If it was taken out for, like, trying not to make it rated R, if it was too horrific, if it was too there were too many plot lines, if it took, I think some of the nuance possibly got taken out when in post. That a Marvel fan, like a real Marvel fan, would be like, yes, amazing. But like the average theater goer would be like, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? What are we saying? I don't understand. So a lot of things get lost in translation. So I'd be curious to see if that's accurate, if that rumor is true. And I'd love to see that footage at some point. I'm sure that they will theoretically release it, because people will at some point demand it and make a petition on
Yeah.
The Raimi cut.
The director's
Where's
cut,
the Raimi
Release
cut?
the Raimi cut.
Exactly. You know, it's
Yeah.
funny,
What are you
the
saying?
other version as well, which was the version pre-COVID version, because pre-COVID version of both that film and Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right.
So not knowing,
Right.
and the orders were switched. So I'm curious.
The
now
orders were
where
switched, right.
America, yeah, when all these people, what happened, and that was, I think
Well,
that was a connection Omar was talking about. There was no connection, No Way Home. Before that, there was connection in the original
Right.
script, where they were like, we have to stop because of COVID and stuff like that.
Right. Because America was supposed to be, there's like two, there's like students like helping out at the Sanctum Sanctorum or something. I think she was supposed to be one of those. Ned kind of took her place in Spider-Man No Way Home in terms of like being like a new disciple of what's it, my brain, but of
Wong?
the mystic arts. Yeah, of Wong. So there was a lot of stuff that they had to change because of COVID scheduling. They couldn't get people to the places they needed them to be, and I can't pronounce her name, but the young woman who plays America is Miss Gomez. She she was 14 when they filmed this movie. Like, so she, not only are you dealing with like COVID, you also have a child that you're like, okay, how do we
Right.
do any of this? Which, speaking of children, I was like, wow, they filmed all of these scenes at the same time they filmed WandaVision for these children that played Billy and
Yeah, that was really great
it
addition.
was wild. I was like,
Tommy,
I have a question though, but
Yeah.
just about the movie, and when are they going to make these the Sorcerer Supreme and anybody along that power level able to open a portal without a sling ring? I mean, come on, they can do all this stuff. I was like, they still need a ring. I was like, oh my gosh, they take their rings away and they can't go anywhere. I'm like, come on.
well, I don't know, in the context of Doctor Strange is one of the comic books I haven't like delved into yet, like the original comic books and whatnot. What is the origin of the sling ring in general? Like, how does that work?
I've read some Doctor Strange comics. I've never been a huge Doctor Strange fan, probably like most people, but yeah, I don't know any origin of the sling ring or anything like that. I know that most of his power is not tied to a ring or anything. I mean, the thing that he uses the most is the Eye of Agamotto, or
Right.
So there's, as far as a ring, I'm sure he probably wears a ring or something, but I can't place that as using that as an ability to open a portal.
I guess they would have to explain like the in-world logic about why that is the one thing that they need a device to accomplish the ends. I don't know, but
Yeah, it'll probably be more difficult now for somebody to open one without one, and to go back and explain why it works now when it's never worked. At this point, it's kind of tied to it. The portal's kind of tied to the sling ring.
Right.
Ned used it. Like, everybody uses that thing now. So now it's like, if somebody opened a portal without it, it'd be like, how could they do that when nobody else can? So,
and I think in the context of this movie, the reason why they even made it was like a whole bit, right, during the first third of the movie where she stole his sling ring and
Yeah.
he couldn't do anything, blah, 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 blah. I think that that was important because it showcased her power is like what theoretically what the wizards and those who practice the mystic arts, what they are doing just on a grander, like a macro scale.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's able to accomplish much more with just a power that comes from her naturally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that that was purposefully put into the movie again to be like, look, they need these dumb rings in order to do
You,
in order to go places, and all she needs to do is punch a star into the sky.
right. Right. You know, one thing I did want to bring up is that the different uses of like Doctor Strange's powers. So we saw 3 iterations of him, I think, in the movie, right? I think it was 3. Was it more than that?
I think
Maybe I'm just confusing
Well,
the dead
well,
one.
we saw 3 that were besides the one that was killed by the Illuminati. I think we saw 3 besides that one, right?
Sure.
So the 3 active ones, and the first one with the ponytail that he didn't like,
Ponytail.
right? Had his magic was blue, and then we have the traditional
Yes.
Doctor Strange's magic was yellow, and then the other ones was red, but they could say that or was it purple actually?
Purple.
Might have been
It was
purple.
purple. It was
Mhm.
purple. So just the multiversal changes that they gave attention to, which is I thought was pretty cool.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
they
And they gave him like really ice based. Like it seemed like that first Doctor Strange was using a lot of like
That's
ice based magic attacks, which I thought was
Yeah.
cool to think that maybe there's different Stranges that have like a different skill set, like have a different power set from each other. So I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Nice. Good job noticing that. That's really interesting to point out because the fact that they even thought that far in advance, or not in advance, but the fact that they thought about it means that they have clear ideas of what the difference is between these different Doctor Stranges. Obviously, we also have the one that had purple power. He has been touched by the Darkhold. And so something to do with that, probably, at some level. Speaking of all the Doctor Stranges, which was your favorite Doctor Strange, or more the most interesting portrayal for your money?
Well, for me, I'd say it was the Army of Darkness Doctor Strange because we had already seen the regular one, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really care for the first one, which was him but resurrected and with ghosts and demons or whatever it was, and it was really cool how they turned that into his new cloak of levitation. He just
Mhm.
he flew and he came in, and the animation when he was a zombie, they took the what if and they added the Sam Raimi. It was perfect. The animation, it wasn't fluid like real time. It was really like Sam Raimi Army of Darkness animation at that point.
Mhm.
And it was really cool to see him come with that. I like that one the best this time.
yeah, that one was definitely the most interesting. Actually,
Mhm.
I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" And even the little, he was like, "All right, let me try to work my fingers." I was like, "That." I was like, "This is real." Like, wait,
Yeah.
that was dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm partial to the first one. I don't know. I like the fact that he
Ponytail.
was. I kind of like he was like a really short glimpse of him, like the one with the ponytail Doctor Strange. There was a really short glimpse of him, but I liked his powers. And then I don't know. I always like a hero that's got a little bit of darkness, just a little bit of darkness, and the fact that he was willing to sacrifice America's life, to take her powers, to get her abilities to, to try to reach what's the name of the book?
The Book of Vashanti.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's interesting to me. It does not necessarily means he's like the best hero for sure. But I kind of like a little bit of bad with my good. So yeah, I found him the most intriguing, I think, out of all of them.
I mean,
Well,
I
he
was
was mixed. Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, he was mixed with the other one, so I guess we're kind of like almost on the same page. His body was in use. So
Eventually.
Informed, yeah. Dead and alive.
I mean, I was interested from the top because he was speaking Spanish at the top, and I was like, "What's happening? What?
Right,
What am I
right.
watching?
That
I
was the
don't know what's
ponytail.
happening."
The ponytail.
Ponytail.
That
That
was
was
the
funny.
ponytail. The power of the ponytail gives you the power to speak Spanish.
Dr. She gets to go strange.
Funny.
But obviously, a lot of the plot of this had to do with the plot of, was it episode 4 of What If or episode 5? Whichever one was the one
4.
with the 4. Okay, that's what I thought. Episode 4 of What If. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Which I still think I have to think again. I haven't watched What If again because I didn't have to. I will watch it again, but I was like, solid. I liked it. But that episode still stands out as the best one for me. And there was a lot. What this phase, people have pointed out, phase 4 is a lot about loss and grief and how to, can you overcome that grief? What do you do in the face of that grief? Wanda created a whole fantasy land for herself. Loki went through a whole crisis when he learned that his mother was dead. There's just a lot of grief that and trauma that these characters have gone through, whether that's by product of Thanos or that's by product of themselves, or whatever. And so Doctor Strange is dealing with the fact that he's the cause of his own grief in every universe. In every universe, he does not get the girl. He's not allowed to get the girl for whatever reason. The universe has decided that he and what's her name? Christine, thank you. He and Christine are not meant to be, which is really, in the world of superheroes, the superhero always gets the girl, like that, Superman and Lois and Peter Parker and Mary Jane or whoever he's with at any given time. But yeah, I think that the exploration of that through this particular lens, especially seeing the difference between the kinds of grief that he and Wanda are both experiencing, was what made this movie interesting to me.
I think Doctor Strange and all of the masters of the mystic arts, especially those who excel, are they're kind of like monks. So they're not meant to get the girl, because to really hone their craft, it's a certain level of discipline. And obviously any superhero has danger that's going to be injected into their life, but to get to that level, you have to be you have to have a certain kind of mind. And I think Strange had that mind already, because he was like the top surgeon, and
Right.
he's like his mind, the way it worked, was already amazing, so he just transferred that over. But I think, yeah, those people are wizards in that sense, and especially given the type of temples they have. It's like the Tibetan type setting.
Right.
It's all like it's all monk like. So
And really, as I think about it, like, and this is probably a deeper discussion, but how many superheroes like have a solid partner anyway? I mean,
Depends
you
on the
don't really
universe.
but you don't see. I mean, I'm talking in as a whole, you don't see superheroes have very strong romantic relationships that last a long time. I mean, Black Panther and Storm is one, but even they had their like off and on again, things. Sue and Reed Richards is probably one of the ones that's lasted the longest and the strongest.
But that's because
yeah.
they existed prior to. But they also their relationship also pre-existed
the powers.
any powers. So that's
Yeah.
that's also a rarity, is that like a relationship pre-existing.
But yeah, I don't know. That was just a random thought.
Cyclops and
Has nothing
Jean
to do with
Grey.
anything. But
They were long
I
lasting.
think there's always something that a hero has to sacrifice, in order to really reach their goals. And usually it seems like romantic relationships is the first thing to go. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, and it's
Tear.
I definitely agree, and it's something that Phase 4, like you were touching earlier, Phase 4 really deals with, which I love about it. Now, it deals with more really adult beyond just a superhero, the basic things. The it's a meat and potato. It's like, all right, superhero, the great, they have girl or whatever. But now it's like, all right, we're dealing with this now. WandaVision dealing with grief. You said Loki dealing with definitely grief as well, and then just really unhappiness because even with Loki, I'm thinking with first second episode, you saw his life playing out, and it was like, damn, what was it all for? What was
Right.
my conquest and my evilness for if I lost my mom, I lost my father, and then like, oh, my brother I've hated all this time, like we actually, end up being friends and loving each other as brothers, and then I died. As it because the force I worked for and my boss I worked for and them killing me anyway. But I protected my brother, and now with WandaVision, which is crazy. I was talking to someone about this the other day. It's like Wanda has been kicked down the whole time she's been in the MCU.
Entire
She
time.
comes out with her brother gets shot. It's like, Dad, this is the close person I have. This is my family. But at that time, she had an anchor, which was Vision. It's like, all right, cool. You had visions like that. You fell in love with Vision. Vision's taken away from you.
Not just that, she had to initially kill him
Kill him,
and
yep,
then watched him get killed again.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under a minute. Just under a
And
minute.
then
So,
also she was the one that really got kicked to the curb because of what happened at, was it Lagos? Am I
What?
thinking that? Where
Oh,
she
Oh,
yeah, Captain
where
America,
she blew up where she
mhm.
blew up
I
the
think it was
building,
Lagos.
the
Civil
embassy
War, I think
in
was the
Yeah.
Civil
beginning.
War, and so she was
Yeah.
essentially, the
Public enemy
catalyst for
number one.
that whole thing having to happen.
Yeah.
The Sokovia Accords and all that, and she was grounded for that. So yeah, Wanda been
Mhm.
through it. She's
Yeah,
been
and
through
she
it in the
all of
MCU.
her and all of her anchors were just gone. Like even after what was it what Infinity War, when Tony gone, of course, like the person she was closest with after that, besides Vision, was Captain America.
Right.
Captain America was like her big brother, and he was just gone. He's like, all right, I'm going back in time, retiring here. So had no. It's like, oh, kid, you cool, but I'm gonna go chill my girl in 1942, whatever. So, and I'm gonna give my shield to Falcon, this black guy you probably don't even talk to. So, like, all right, cool, you talk to him, all right, cool.
I don't think I've
What?
ever seen them interact, but go ahead.
It's like, oh, okay, but it's like, and then you see this, it's like, all right, in WandaVision, she had her kids, or in Westfield, you had your kids, and you had Vision back with her magic and stuff like that, and then after that, to even figure out that that's not real, it's like, wow, the with Doctor Strange and watching What If,
Mhm.
of course, like that Christine isn't, he was in every universe,
Right.
and that's the big thing. What if that's why that Doctor Strange turned evil? Because he was trying his best, trying to get to happy.
Yeah.
And in the movie, it was like questions like, "Are you happy?" at the end, and it's
Right.
like, "Ag, am I happy?" And Wanda's whole thing was her trying to get to happy, get to her sons, and their internal fight.
It's funny. I think that Doctor Strange, even though he seems similar to the What If Doctor Strange, he was he definitely was not the What If Doctor Strange.
No.
He seemed similar. He said had the whole dark outfit on. He had he looked ragged in the face, but he was not him because he was nowhere near as powerful as he would have been after absorbing all those powerful creatures.
No. And
Um,
he also wasn't in a pocket dimension, was he? I don't think so. At
no,
that,
no.
No.
his universe was just it was just the
Think
incursion
Kurt.
was just happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It would have been dope to see the Watcher. And see, like certain things, I'm like, damn, it would have been dope to see the Watcher and Jeffrey Wright have a small thing like, I see the whole multiverse. Or his voice.
You know, can we for a minute, if you
Mhm.
guys want, talk like multiversal theories? Because I'm really like I have it's interesting how the multiverse is portrayed depending on the
Mhm.
movie, whether it be Marvel or DC. But even in Marvel, you have multiverse in Spider-Man, you have this, and then you have Loki, right? Those are
Yeah.
those are the shows that they've talked about the most with and showed displayed the multiverse.
Yeah.
And in Loki, you see, I guess, the greatest variance, right? Because no
Mhm.
pun intended, but you see the greatest variance because he has versions of himself that looks exactly like him, but then he has versions of himself that looks nothing like him. He has older
Mhm.
versions, younger versions. You know,
Alligator.
Yeah,
Yeah,
alligator one,
the kid, the black
different
one.
different genders. Yeah. So it's
Hmm.
very interesting how they did that. And I think, just in thinking about the multiverse, because in this one it was like Stephen Strange was the same. There's always a Christine, right? And when Wanda was using the book to and even Doctor Strange at some point was using the book to look at the multiverse,
Oh
there
yeah.
was a limited number of globes. And we know that the multiverse is infinite. And and that I guess infinitum is
Sure.
the reason for that is because, at least in my opinion, my theory on the multiverse is that every single living being in the entire universe is responsible for multiple multiverses, right?
Mhm.
Because any alternate decision any individual being makes creates a different timeline, and that goes from the beginning of time throughout the end. And the closer you are, let's say for instance, a decision somebody made 100 years ago, versus a decision that was made yesterday, right? That different timeline that was made yesterday is closer vibrationally speaking than the one that might have delved off 100 years ago, right? I don't want to lose the listeners, but I
We're
don't want to
getting
lose the
deep.
listeners,
Get
but
deep
yeah,
over
but
there. You get
but
deep,
but
Omar.
but yeah, so the ones that are closest to you, those are the ones that you more likely would be able to see or experience or cross over with.
Hmm.
So but yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. The way that I understand the multiverse is how it has been explained, and especially through Loki. Loki is the the nexus point of understanding the multiverse. They went very detailed into how the multiverse works, and I think I understood what they were trying to say. But from what I understand, is that it's not little things like, oh, I kicked a can down the street to the left instead of the right, and that changed. Like, that's not what it is. That makes a different path on the multiverse. It has to be something astronomical, in some way, shape, or form that diverges, like makes a big divergence. So the time variance authority, because they don't exist anymore in the time that we now exist in, for No Way Home and for Multiverse of Madness, all of this stuff is allowed to happen, because otherwise the time variance authority would have been like, no, 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 stop. All of this would have never happened. So even though they don't talk about Loki and they don't talk about the events of Loki, we don't even hear about Kang or blah 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 blah. What's the actual character's name? Not, I know his name's not Kang in the context of Loki, but
The
He
one
who
who
uh
remains.
remains.
The one who
he
remains.
remains. I'm like, he who something, not Voldemort. He who remains. Um, Even though none of that is mentioned in this context, what I understand to be happening is that a lot of stuff is occurring primarily because the time variance authority no longer exists. And also that these are all the doc, because you said something about like the different looking Lokis. Loki is still a god in every world. And the Loki, the god, can be so many things. I don't know if this is the reason why, but we didn't see like a black Doctor Strange. We didn't see different kinds of these things. I think Stephen Strange is always Stephen Strange. For whatever reason, I'm not sure if that's because of Loki and Loki's like a wolf sometimes in like Norse mythology. So I don't like I'm not sure. We need to see more uh multiversal
Well,
examples for me to like have a hard and fast rule about that, but I'm not sure if I entirely agree with your thought process.
so let me counter but not counter at the same time, right? Um the reason is because the reason I said that, one, I did say my theory on the multiverse. I didn't say the
Mhm.
Marvel Universe's theory.
Oh, do
And
you just mean general multiverses? So we're
well,
just talking about
but
every
no,
multiverse, including
but there's,
everywhere, all at once. Let's just talk
well,
about that movie.
we could, but even there are things in the MCU that don't gel well with what happens with the time variant authority and Loki. They don't.
No, yeah, there's a couple of things
So
like that.
so for instance, you have the multiverse and the way it works in MCU and the way it looks like it probably works is because we have different versions of Peter Parker, right? We have
Mhm.
there's no Venom in the Earth 616 until Tom Hardy comes over,
Right.
leaves a little, and then there's old versions of Aunt May. There's no version of Uncle Ben, right?
Mm.
There's all kinds of different scenarios.
Right.
And the reason is, the Time Variant Authority decided to lock down time at a certain point, right? At a certain point, not from the beginning of time, but at a
No.
certain point. And so, is that to say that there was no multiverse that existed before then? What happens if somebody, like you said, somebody kicks a can down the street, right? Just as an example, but then they marry somebody else. They don't, as opposed to someone else, they have a different child, different type of child, which is why Peter Parker looks different, which is why there can't be a Loki in every universe. It just can't. There can't be a Thor in every universe. It's just doesn't work. But I'm sorry, I'm geeking out because that's what
No,
I
you're
do,
fine.
right?
This
But
you're
there,
fine.
there
But
literally can't be. It's impossible.
I mean, in the context of Loki, they literally were like, "You're a girl, Loki. No, get out of here." Like that's literally was the plot. When they were
Right.
like, "You're a girl, get out," and I was like, "Oh no, this is terrible." But so they do that. There is possibility where if it goes too far off from whatever they've deigned to be within the normal limits, because there are changes within the normal limits, right?
Right.
It's kind of like, when you get your blood pressure taken, there are normal limits, or you're far outside on the bottom end of it or far outside on the top end of it. Either way, your doctor's like, oh, this is not good. So it's kind of in that same thought process, I guess.
It's interesting.
But
Let me not talk
Yeah.
too much about my
been thinking
personal multiverse.
wait, hold on a second.
Listen, go ahead, Sky. I said, let me not talk too much more about my multiversal theories because they can go all over the place and go too long. So let's continue.
It's all good.
Guy, what were you
You can
saying?
definitely go deep. Which would have been thinking about the whole even Loki idea. What you're saying is just he's a god. He could be really anything in any universe, which is dope. It would have been cool, but probably been longer time, whatever, if they had like a Stephanie Strange in a different multi universe. Like, okay, Stephanie Strange, and then it's like, who are you? Like, I'm Stephanie Strange, and I was a doctor and love my life. Oh, his name is
Chris.
Chris. And it's like, but then they'll actually bring the theory even more that in every universe, Doctor Strange can't be with Chris or Christine in every thing. It would go more to that theory.
But to follow the thought process of Loki, a female Loki got shit done.
She did until she wrote a universe.
I mean, no, she still got shit done.
Yes, she did.
She did exactly what she wanted to do. I was like, listen, girl, power to you. It wasn't good. It wasn't great, but she did it. Meanwhile, Loki couldn't get anything done. And that was the whole point. No Loki was able to accomplish anything except for her. She was the only one. That was like literally the whole point was of Loki. It was what I got out of it. I was like, okay, all y'all ain't shit, but she's doing something. It's not great. Again, she's
And
not like
that was in the cards anyway, right? I think it was in the cards for the female Loki because in the comics Loki became a female at some point.
yes.
Yeah.
She's in there somewhere. Female
Yeah.
Loki is in there. People
Like
were
her.
predicting female Loki for Loki for a while. So yeah.
So she's not replacing Tom Hiddleston. They just said, hey, we're going to pay attention to both.
First of all, you could never replace Tom Hiddleston.
No.
Not in this world or another.
Yeah.
People would lose their minds. Tom Hiddleston is one of the reasons that people still come back to watch the MCU. That is
No, seriously. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
that's straight facts.
Yeah.
And
That and Chris Hemsworth's biceps.
that's also true.
Well,
I don't make the rules. That is just how the world works. But kind of getting back into the plotline of Multiverse of Madness. I was like, ooh, peep Christine with her black husband.
oh,
No, I said that too. I said,
that was a surprise. It was
You did dip in the
disappointing.
chocolate, boy. That was
Shook.
It was a surprise. It was disappointing to see him be a fanboy of her ex though. It was
It
just
would be
I,
that way
I was
though.
just like, oh man, she can't escape it. She can't escape it. It's like,
How could you, when your ex is one of the most famous people in multiple planets? Like,
and he,
how could you? How could you? That's
Yeah.
especially when
that's
he pull,
almost impossible.
especially when he pulls off a scarf, throws it on his back, and jumps over a balcony.
Just
I gotta
ruin
follow
the
that
wedding.
guy.
That's
Ah
funny.
man. But honestly, good for him for having good humor about it, because he could have been like
Yeah, yeah,
weird about it.
yeah.
But oh, the first moment I knew this movie was out of control was, well, actually it was probably when he was trying to steal America's powers, but really when they were fighting the eyeball creature, when the eyeball popped out, I said, "Oh no,
Yeah.
this eyeball is
Yeah.
out," and I just saw it come out, and it's just oh my god, I can't believe they
Yeah.
showed that on screen, and I
Yeah.
said, "Oh
It's crazy.
no, this is
I was
this
like,
poor."
oh, yeah,
This
we
is
on a
just
ride now. We on a ride now.
It's
They didn't cut the camera away or nothing. You saw all the veins and everything on
that
that
whole
eyeball coming
scene.
out.
I
That scene
gagged.
reminded me of Suicide Squad.
Sure.
Sure
It
did.
The
Starmie.
Starro.
Yeah,
Starmie.
Not
yeah.
Starmie. That is not his name. That is a Pokemon.
I got
Starro.
confused for a second.
Starro.
They're both star-based creatures.
Right.
I don't know
Um,
DC.
I don't know these things.
But yeah, it
yeah.
definitely reminded me of Suicide Squad. It put me in that mind because isn't that how they killed that star creature as well? It is
Yeah, they
through his
somehow.
eye.
Um,
Harley was
Harley,
inside the eye, and
like,
then she.
speared him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, but also the rats ate him from out.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
that part.
there's all of those things. A hole was made so that the rats could eat it from the inside out.
Right,
Anyway.
right. It's-
Graphic.
yeah.
I think one of the things that I kind of I don't know exactly how to word this. One of the things that I kind of wish could have happened was somehow I feel like the multiverse was established, but then like also kind of not in this movie. Just I would have liked to see more threads that we could continue to pull on. Like just it feels like there was like we went to these worlds, these things happen, and then we're away from them. And I don't know how this is probably not making any sense.
No, I think I understand what you're saying. I think they're really at this point. I really think they're banking on people watching everything else. Honestly, like I don't think they're like, we're not going to explain this every movie. Like, do you know what I mean? They're not like, we don't have time. Do you
Right.
want us to spend 20 minutes at the beginning of every movie to explain to you the multiverse? Because you could have just watched Loki. We don't have time. And so I think that they're like, do your homework.
But that's my thing. I think is that because it has been
that's
established that we know that we should know what the multiverse is at this point. I don't know how you do it, but I kind of feel like we just pass through everything. Like, I feel like we just pass through, like kind of like he and Doctor Strange passing through all of these different.
I was gonna say that
different dimensions to get to the when he went through the water and the cube and the animated and I feel like as a movie it did that. Like it just kind of passed through all of these things and we just ended up back kind of where we started and nothing. I just don't really feel like there was much progression into any of these other universes. I think it was just kind of stuck a little bit.
I think because she doesn't understand her powers yet, that's a big part of it. But continue, Omar.
No, I was gonna say that was the multiverse of madness for me. That 30 seconds or so when he passed through all those universes, I think it was the most visually amazing thing in that entire movie.
That was very cool.
It was really good. I think if anything, they should have had you put on your 3D glasses for that.
Yeah.
Because if anything was worth 3D, it should have been that, and that's when they tell you in the movie, put in 3D glasses now, and you take them
Yep.
off when it's over and don't watch anymore, right? So, it was really amazing to see that, and I was like, whoa, it's trippy. Imagine smoking and then watching that,
Yep.
that was trippy. So yeah, it was crazy. Loved it.
Here, I think I can explain. For example, in 838, right, we get introduced to. I mean, we'll probably get into this a little bit more, but we get introduced to Captain Carter. We get introduced to this alternate version of Captain Marvel, Professor X, Reed Richards, and then they all get killed. So it's like we have nothing. There's nothing really to grasp.
Well,
Even in these other universes, there didn't feel like there was this other version of Wanda who didn't really fight, just kind of stand there. And I mean, Scarlet Witch is going to be tough to fight against her anyway. But, so I just feel like we went through all of these different multiverses and we really didn't get attached to any of the things or any of the people that were in any of these other iterations, except for maybe the other version, 838 Christine. She was a little bit more connected than maybe some of the other people, but
Right.
I think that's kind of the feeling that I was left with a little bit, is that there wasn't really anything to grab, and kind of like what you guys were saying at the very beginning, there really wasn't anything to grab onto and say, yes, like this is really what I want to see more of in the future, or I can see where this is going to go and I'm ready for the ride. It was kind of like we saw all these cool people and it's like, and you killed them off. And it's, okay, so are we going to see other versions of them then? Or are we just going to, where do we go from there? And I think this the visual of seeing Professor X get killed again was just like,
Not again.
How many times do I have to watch one of
You
my
will
favorite
watch
X-Men
Patrick
die?
Stewart get killed many times before he is dead.
I'm over. I don't want to see it no more.
What were you gonna say? And then I'll go.
That, and it's crazy. Also, one thing I was disappointed in: where the hell were Billy and Tommy's powers? Even in WandaVision, I'm like, but even though multiverse versions like that, they were the other Wanda was was magic as well. So I'm like, all right, if this Billy and Tommy were created from magic as well, shouldn't they both have had powers, or they're just normal little kids in every other multiverse?
Well, this is my thing. There's no Vision.
That we saw.
So that we saw, but you would think that you would hear his voice, and that Wanda would be like, "Oh, Vision, oh, kids," like, something. So they made a very conscious decision to not have Vision, in this movie in any capacity. It was about the kids, and that was it. And but even in the context of WandaVision, they didn't have their powers at the very beginning. It took, I think, once they reached. Huh?
Like 4 days, because they grew so quickly.
No, I know, but like so the age that we're seeing the kids that they are in this particular, I think they ended at around like what, 12, 13 maybe tops. Probably
12 tops.
Like 12 tops. Yeah. So let's say 10 to 12 they were in. Because I didn't think they were at the powers age. When I looked at them, it was like the first time they had changed, and I don't remember them having powers right then. I think it was the next episode when they then saw Quicksilver and they were like copying the moves, or then Billy showed whatever his power was. And so I didn't expect powers from them, and I don't expect to see any kind of powers from them, honestly, until Young Avengers, whenever that happens. And who knows, because we didn't explore the multiverses enough to understand, maybe Wanda in that world, if she doesn't have a vision, do they have these specific powers? How does it work in those contexts? So we don't know, and that might be a problem. There's a lot that I give Marvel a lot of like rope to be able to figure stuff out. Because sometimes 5 movies from now, or with the TV series especially, sometimes 5 movies from now, I'm like, it all made sense. I got it. I'm good. Everything that just happened made sense to me. Because I've been saying since Jump, Age of Ultron is a good movie. I don't care what anyone says, and I don't care if they had to retcon to make it make sense. It still is a good movie to me. But yeah,
I'm thinking Quantumania might be the
I agree.
the nexus point,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
agree. That's
and
where
that,
Kang is
honestly,
actually going to be.
That's
Right.
that's in my own brain. That's like, okay, this is the date it needs to make sense. Like this, not that it doesn't make sense now, but all of these like lingering threads that are kind of hanging out there. I'm like, Quantumanium, Kang the Conquerors, is supposed to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We should get some solid answers by then.
Yes.
Like,
I
yeah.
agree. I think, the trailers for Multiverse of Madness, every trailer it had Stephen Strange saying the multiverse is something about which we know frighteningly little. And I was like, yep, that's how I felt this entire movie, based off of these are characters that don't understand what's going on. America doesn't understand her own power. Why would Doctor Strange understand it more than her? Benedict Wong does not understand his power, or sorry, the multiverse power. If we're dealing with a bunch of characters, aside from Wanda, who probably understands it more than everybody else, but she's the villain in this movie, so we're not seeing a lot from her perspective necessarily. We're just seeing her her focus is her kids. So we're like, cool, that's your focus. But we're not learning about what she learned in the Darkhold. We're not learning about like what the Darkhold says about the multiverse, except for what she said that Viz said before she revealed that she was actually the bad guy in the movie, which, spoiler alert, was very clear from, if you watch anything, I was like, Wanda's the villain. Every time they were like, who's the villain? I said, it's Wanda. Like, what are we talking about? It's clearly Wanda. Wanda is the villain. Like a villain with probably the longest backstory of any villain that has existed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So we got her full story. We know exactly where she's coming from. But the twist that they made, I don't know if I can call it a twist, but the way that they flipped her need and want for her children around on her and used it as a weapon against her, because only Wanda could have defeated herself.
Oh yeah.
I was like, she's too powerful. There's no way they can beat her. They could never make me believe that Doctor Strange beat her. They couldn't make me.
No, she almost ripped up Thanos. It was like, come on.
But it was never gonna happen. So I was like, how are they gonna make her stop? What is gonna get her to stop? And that scene, like they showed the scene in the trailers, or like not really, but like the little clips of her touching her face, the variant touching Scarlet Witch's face, which is a beautiful scene. And like, again, Elizabeth Olsen did some amazing work in this movie. She, like that is a heartbroken woman. That is a woman who doesn't know, literally she has nothing to gain or lose in life. So why not? That and she has all the power at her itty bitty blackened fingertips.
I have two things. One about the fight with the people who are cameos. But
we can talk about
Illuminati.
The Illuminati. Yeah, whatever. But the book of Vishanti, not Ashanti. Vishanti, right?
It's really hard to say though. Every time they said it, I said, "Are they saying Ashanti?"
Right, because it's of and then Vishanti. So yeah, but I get it. But they said that book is the antithesis to the Darkhold. But it's only one book and it's at the nexus point. So how come there's so many Darkholds, but there's only one of those books? And even if the Darkhold was carved into by Cthon, it was carved into the that
the
place,
temple.
Karmatage or whatever it was.
No, the
Karmatage
temple
was the temple for the what's the name? But anyway, it was carved into the walls there. There's different versions of that in every universe, right? So how come if it's the antithesis, why is there only one? And how come these books are so easily destroyed? I get that they're magic wielders, but usually books like that Even in Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, right? The Darkhold, which was a big thing. Um, it's they're not easily destroyed. They have protection spells that you have to
Right.
use like really powerful magic to get through, and they were burned like by the simplest of spells, or stabbed and just destroyed. It kind of that didn't sit well with me. It was just weird. That and the
I
fact
agree.
that there was only one book of Vishanti.
Well, there's only one America Chavez. So
Well,
I wonder if I don't know, because again they didn't explain it enough. There was not enough explanation about any of that. They didn't. We got a sampling of what a Nexus being is from WandaVision, very briefly, very briefly. But in terms of Nexus beings, I don't know. Are there Nexus items? Are there items that only exist in certain places? How many Wandas are there actually? Are there only a couple? Because depending on the universe, Vision has been a Nexus being, Wanda has a Nexus being. I can't remember, there's a couple others that I usually name, but there are some like mainstay Nexus beings within the Marvel universe. And when I say Marvel universe in this context, I just mean the comic books. But I don't know. To answer your question, it's a good question, because I'm not sure why there's only one book of Vishanti and a bunch of Darkholds. Maybe because someone wanted to make sure there were Darkholds everywhere and didn't want there to just be one. So, but the book of Vishanti was so important that they were like, no, we're going to put it in this one place. It can only be found at when the moon is high, and you like,
the universe is aligned.
and the universe is aligned, and Mr. Tumnus leads us in the forest. Like, I don't know.
Mr. Tumnus.
Mr. Tumnus.
But speaking of people that have played Professor X, let's talk about this scene with all the cameos with the Illuminati. So we have what's her name, who was in Captain Marvel as Rambeau, Maria Rambeau.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lashana Lynch. So we have Maria Rambeau's Captain Marvel, and Peggy Carter's Captain Britain. We have the addition of, because obviously we saw Captain Britain in What If, but we have the addition of John Krasinski as Reed Richards and Patrick Stewart in this Marvel Cinematic Universe, because obviously X-Men up until recently has not existed. But we have Sir Patrick Stewart as Professor X, and then we have, what is the character's name?
Anson Mount.
Anson Mount.
Black Bolt.
Yes, Black Bolt. So we have all of these lovely characters that do not get to stick around for long, which honestly, as a horror fan, I appreciate, because that no one's safe. This is what I love about horror. I'm like, oh, you're not safe, you're not safe, you're not safe, everyone's dead. That's my personal taste when it comes to horror movies, because I want to know that I'm like, oh no, that means anyone could die at any moment. If you're gonna kill Patrick Stewart, I don't know what to do. Like, that keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
For sure, because I didn't know what else was going to happen in the movie. I was like, oh no, they could kill Doctor Strange if they wanted to at this point, and I'd be like, well, goodbye. There are other ones in other universes. I guess we'll see you later. So that part of it, them like getting yeeted like that, didn't bother me. But the ways they got yeeted, I was like, oh no, there was so much happening. The unraveling of Mr. Fantastic, crazy. The snapping of Patrick Stewart's neck, wild. There was so much. Wanda was pulling no punches, and I was like, this feels realistic. That felt realistic to me, because she's one of the most powerful beings that's ever existed, period. And I believed it based off of that scene alone.
That's great.
It's funny because I don't know what was the most gangster killing, actually. I think Black Bolt was one of the top ones. Like his like, as whisper in his mouth, like, what mouth? It's like, oh, I said, damn, Wanda's gangster. It was a quick thought. It was like,
that was bad.
I screamed the entire scene. I was like, I'm so sorry, everyone else in the theater. Thankfully, I was at Magic Johnson, so who gives a fuck? There was literally a dude behind me. He was talking. When I say talking to the screen, I don't just mean like reacting. He was like, but what happened to Doctor Strange, though? As if he was expecting us to respond to him, like, and have a conversation. I said, not right now. We're trying to figure out what's happening. But in any case, it was a very crazy scene. And I think I give a lot of rope to Marvel. I believe a lot of these characters will appear again. I'm glad they got Sir Patrick Stewart in, because can we remember how old that man is? That's an old man, and he's in really good health for his age, but he is old. So if this is the time and the only time we get him in these movies, great. We did it. We made a connection, and we'll figure out the rest of it when it comes. But that's how I feel about some of this. I would be very surprised if John Krasinski didn't make a reappearance like that. There was a lot of fan service in this. There was a lot of fan service in this. People have been begging for John Krasinski to be Reed Richards for literal years. So I think that they were hoping, a lot of this was, they were like, okay, they kind of gave away. The only thing they didn't give away was that was important. When I say important, I choke myself for even saying that, but was John Krasinski as Reed Richards, because we already knew that Patrick Stewart was in the movie just from his voice. Because if they had kept mum on all of that, that entire scene would have been way more mind blowing.
Yeah, I would have lost my if I didn't know they were going to be there, I would have lost my shit.
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm using the right language, but but yeah.
But I think,
I mean, it's tough to keep a rap, and I think,
yeah.
And for me, there's two parts to this. To me, I think maybe that's why I feel slightly cheated, is because they like tease these characters as being, being in it and being involved, and then they were just brutally murdered. So a little bit, and then I forgot what the second part of what I was gonna say was.
You're fine.
But yeah, that's what I feel like. Oh, and I know that they teased us with those characters because we were gonna come to the theater to see them.
True.
And then they got killed right before our eyes. So I don't know how to feel about it, to be honest with you. And the second part is that yes, it showed how powerful. Obviously, Wanda was the focal point of this movie, and it obviously showed how powerful Wanda is. But then, to me, it kind of weakened those characters a little bit. Like it weakened Professor X for me, who was like the most powerful mutant. It weakened Reed Richards, who we haven't seen in a movie forever. And so to me, it did what it was supposed to do, which was make Wanda look like a badass. But in less than 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, she decimated all of them. So on the other side of it, it made me feel like it made those characters look less strong than they're portrayed in some of their comic variations.
I don't agree with that. I don't think they seemed weak to me. I think, especially, again, they're banking on people a lot. Again, if you know that Patrick Stewart is in a movie playing Professor X, you've seen the other X-Men. They're banking on people having understood the history in some way, shape, or form, to be invested in some way, shape, or form in this man coming back. So all that to say, I don't think the X-Men movies have ever really done any of the characters enough justice. We've talked about Storm all the time on here. Like, they don't do most of the characters justice, and they don't do Phoenix justice, and they just need to stop. They just need to stop doing it. But I think what I understood in the storytelling is that these are 5 of the most important and powerful people in this particular universe, to the point that they stopped someone who was unraveling their own universe, and that they all, have either the brains, the strength, the magic, the whatever they bring to the table, Captain Planet style, whatever they bring to the table, they have enough of it that they are important figures in this universe. So, and that they're not scared, mind you, because they say constantly, we're not scared of your witch. We'll get her. They say it many times. I'm like, you strong like that. Okay, let's see what you do. And they couldn't do it. And I think that to me, I think they could they have done a little bit more? Sure. But I think it was proof that they don't know Wanda. And they didn't know what she was struggling with and against, and they thought that Stephen Strange was their worst enemy, and they didn't realize how far gone that she was, and that she ruined them completely. And I don't think to me, they did not look weak. I understand if I was a person who was just watching this movie, I'd be like, who are these people? And I had never seen any other movie. I'd be like, who are these people? Oh, they didn't really do anything. Cool, bye. But based off of like general knowledge, and also the storytelling of, we're not scared of her, but you should be, was what the tail end of that sentence was.
For me, I kind of agree with Michael. I say, like, all right, so the deaths that made sense to me. Reed Richards, it made sense because he's not he's just stretchy guy, right?
Yeah.
So that made sense. It was the death of Black Bolt made no sense to me. It made zero sense. The reason why is because they gave a tell. First of all, oh, Black Bolt here, he could just speak, and and I was like, why would you say that to her? And then so she says no mouth, which was dope. That part of it was dope, but his powers make no sense to work against him the way that they made it work, and which weakened his character immeasurably to me, because Black Bolt can't even clear his throat and keep his mouth closed. Otherwise, he's going to blow his brains out. It makes no sense. You know what I'm saying? It's just like he's immune to his own powers. He always has been. Just like Cyclops and his kin are immune to their individual powers to a degree, right? So it makes no sense that he can't, the man can't speak and decide, wait, I'm going to use my power, but I change my mind, but his power is inside his mouth and without blowing his brains out. It was ridiculous to me. But it was absolutely ridiculous. The death of Peggy Carter was great. It was great because it made sense, right? Because she's just Captain America, different version. And how can you stand against Wanda, right? So that made sense. That and Reed Richards was the best. I didn't like the death of Professor X too much because he died too easily, too quickly. For it to be as powerful as he is, he should have had more mental barriers up. Then she killed him in the astral plane, but his neck snapped in real life, and I was like, what? I could understand his mind turning off, but his neck snapped. I was like, that's crazy. But and then I guess it was the Captain Marvel was that death was like she died by getting crushed by a statue. It's like she's too powerful for that. It's kind of crazy to me.
That was the only one that I didn't like.
It was all fan service, right? They gave us the black Captain Marvel because the first Captain Marvel was black. We all know that, right? So that was fan service. Giving us a Reed Richards finally was a tie-in that we've been waiting for to bring in Silver Surfer and everybody else, because who cares about the Fantastic Four? It's giving us Patrick Stewart was great. I think this will be his last showing as Professor X. It's fine. And giving us Peggy Carter, which is great because it's a tie-in. It gives us a female Captain America or Captain Britain, but also gives us the what if version, right? And Black Bolt, and they give because Anson Mount only got to play him in the horrible Inhumans TV show that they made. So they said, okay, let's put him as the same character. And that was cool, but I think it was too campy. Using Professor X's, when he used his powers, you saw the actual waves coming out of his head. I hated that. I was like, I like the way Fox did his powers way better. I'm sorry, the Fox, they did mess up the franchise, but they executed certain powers flawlessly. And
Mm-hmm.
in this movie, when they used his powers and the waves came out, I was like, this is so silly.
I think there's so much what I find when the magic is involved that they have to be like, look, like I totally I agree with you, but they're like, look, ooh. Because in Harry Potter, in the context of Harry Potter, like to jump to Harry Potter really quick, but there are certain things that they have to like show more than would actually happen in like a real life scenario of how magic works, like just so that you could be like, oh look, it's that move, or oh look, it's that. Or even in the context of Endgame, they had to be like, look at the different colors of everyone's powers, just so you know who's fighting where and where this is happening and who's fighting who in the corner and blah 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 blah. And so I agree with you in the context of like it just looks dumb, but I think that a lot of it was to be like, do you understand what's happening? Okay, look. Like there's a lot of that. I'm telling you, there was so much of that in this movie. But what I did, kind of jumping a little bit, what I did love, I loved that music fight was really interesting.
That was cool.
It was really cool. And also, I just want to like also give all of my love to Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman, if you ever listen to me talk about you, I love you so much, because like he could score the phone book, and I'd be like, this is amazing. What an amazing man. It's truly, every time he makes a score, I'm just like, okay, great.
Oh, speaking of scores, and jumping back a little bit, I will say, even though we knew Professor X was going to be in it, seeing him in the old school yellow wheelchair with the theme song from the old X-Men cartoon playing over when he came on, that was beautiful.
Yep. Loved
that moment was beautiful. Even though I knew he was going to be in the movie, that moment with that music, I was like, nailed it. That was amazing.
I think that a lot of fan service was in this movie, and sometimes some things worked and some things didn't, or some things became too campy because there was too much fan service. There was a lot of the writing. I remember sitting there and being like, the plot itself I understood fully and I thought was very clear. What I had problems with sometimes were some of the interstitial language, or like little not even jokes, just turns of phrase. She said like multiple times there were different mother jokes or mother phrases that I was just like, did we have to say this? She said, I'm not a monster, I'm a mother. Or there was one other one that was similar to that, but
kids are made from magic.
Say that one more time.
It's like the kids are made from magic or something like that.
Yeah. There were so many of those kind of things that I was like, why did we choose to keep using this language? We could have had one, maybe two, but there were at least 3 or 4 different kind of mother related quips that Wanda would make back at Doctor Strange, and it was just very odd to me. So I blame a little bit of strange script writing, no pun intended, in that regard. So I'm definitely going to see it again, because my partner hasn't seen it yet, but so I will definitely see it with him to try to like take some notes and remember. But so I think that the script could have used a little bit more looking at. But again, I'd be really curious to see the 40 minutes that they cut out. Because this movie
comes out. I doubt Disney.
We'll see. Disney doesn't like to do that. Yeah. Disney be changing the stuff they already put out. Yeah. Disney be changing Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I'm like, why? You already released it. Can you just leave it?
Disney is not WB. They don't.
They changed 2 things.
They got too much. Disney got too much money to cave to a hashtag. They if it's locked away, it's gonna stay locked away.
There's 2 things that they changed. They changed in Falcon Winter Soldier. There's one moment where Bucky uses his arm to throw a pole into one of the superpowered beings' chests into a storage container, and it sticks her to the storage container. But they redid it so it just like hits her and bounces off. And I was like, boo. And then also, what was the other thing? Because it makes Bucky look weak. You want to talk about looking weak? That makes Bucky look weak. But and then the other
Did they
thing
take the blood away?
They took the blood away from the guy that got shot in the face. Or the chest, either way. They took the blood away from the dude that made the superpowered serum, the super soldier serum. Which I was like, but you already put it out. I don't understand. Like, if you already put it out, this went through higher ups, did it not? Like, before you did. Anyway, there's
I guess
a lot.
we know what version of Daredevil and the rest of those shows we're gonna get.
Oh God.
I don't know. They keep talking about this 18 plus or whatever version of Disney Plus, and I know that like that's already a thing, but it had not yet been a thing when they filmed all of these shows. So I'm curious, in the shows that are filmed in the aftermath of it, if they will keep it the way that it should be, or if they will water it down or change it. Just don't change it. I wouldn't have cared if it wasn't changed, but it's just weird to change it. And so I'm grateful that that Multiverse of Madness, listen, when old dude fell out of the window and onto that pole, and I said,
yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's worse than anything that happened in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So what are you gonna do when that movie gets released on Disney Plus?
These are questions that I have.
They're gonna have him hit the ground and not show what happened.
But his eyeball opens.
Or show the spikes, and you see the spikes, and then you see him falling, and they cut somewhere else, and there you go. You hear the sound.
Or you see a lock of his hair, and then the hair thing. Oh, that's all you see. Like, oh, is he dead?
Or they just zoom in on his third eye, and it closes.
It closes. That's good.
So I do want to talk about two more things before we wrap up this discussion. I want to talk about America Chavez's introduction to the MCU, just in general, and then we'll talk about the post-credit scene. So America Chavez, I didn't know very much about her before I knew that she was going to be in this movie. So I was just excited. Y'all, generally speaking, know me. I'm excited because she's a little brown girl. I'm excited because she is a gay character in the context of Marvel. She has two moms that they were like, look at her two moms. And I said, great, love this. Continue. Let's keep going. So I'm happy for the culture. If for nothing else, I'm also happy for this little girl. Get you your Marvel paycheck, girl. Pay for college if you want to go. You don't have to go anymore if you don't want to. But but yeah, so discuss America Chavez.
I was neutral. I mean, I enjoyed I thought it was a good performance by her. But I when I think about like I can't help but compare her to other young people that have portrayed characters in the MCU. And when I think about like Tom Holland and Zendaya and even Letitia Wright playing.
No, she's the youngest. She's way younger than any of those people.
I don't. They never
Tom Holland was an adult.
They never say what age that she is in this movie. I would not have guessed that she's 14. Like,
I would have. How old you thought that girl was?
I was thinking maybe 16, 17.
She looked young to me.
She did look young, but just
anyway.
But besides the point,
15
I just think that even like Shuri's character, I don't know how old she was, but she was fairly young. I don't know. I think I was just left. I don't know. I'm neutral. Like I don't. If I see her again, great. But I wouldn't miss her if I don't see her again. That's just kind of how I feel about it.
And I'm not even talking about her character age. I'm talking about the actress herself was 14 years old, and like all of the people who have played younger character, or most of the people who have played younger characters in the MCU are full-grown adults. Like they are either, I think Tom Holland, when he started, was probably 20, 21. I have to double check that, but either way.
Maybe I would have liked her more if she was older playing younger then.
It's possible.
I don't know. Like it was just.
I'm not saying you're. I'm not saying you're wrong.
It was just something missing from the arc for me that it didn't necessarily resonate with her. Her character didn't necessarily resonate with me.
She felt young.
And
She
I think
felt like a
and I
Disney
think maybe it was
actress.
just because she was a tool. She just felt like a tool that was being used the whole time by different people. And I never really got to see her establish anything
Yeah,
as herself.
that's true.
And so I didn't really have anything to grab onto with her character in particular because I just feel like all these forces were pulling her these different directions. So I'm just neutral. I didn't really
Yeah.
grab onto anything.
That's true. That was her. Like, she's literally a pawn. There's no. She is not the queen, a rook, or a knight. She is a pawn in the movie. There's no. She has no character development to speak of, except so that you know a little bit of her backstory. But we're supposed to know that she's a child that was ripped away from her parents, so she's an orphan, and that's about it. That's all we know about her.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, she was a plot device, like you said, tool.
Yeah.
She was just a plot device. Which, even though I liked the movie and I think her performance was good, it was good. Based on what she was given, it was good, right? But other than that, just a plot device, which made it, I guess, a little disappointing to me, which is why the movie I would rate it a little bit higher, that there was no tie-in to the events of No Way Home and crossing into the multiverse due to events that he had to fix, because it was just a plot device. And and then throwing Wanda in with the wanting to go to have a different version of her kids and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that her kicking open holes, it was just a way to introduce her, and hopefully introducing her, they'll use her more. I don't know
They
how they're going
will.
to do it, because
Young
it's kind of,
Avengers.
her powers are crazy. Multiversal crossing is kind of it's really crazy to do on a regular basis. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm kind of neutral. I think she performed well with what she was given. I think she held her own against the other people, but she was more kind of like the backdrop. And
I
that's it.
agree. I totally agree with that. I think that, again, Young Avengers, they've been telegraphing Young Avengers at us for quite some time now. She's going to pop back up again, and we have I'm going to say it right, Kamala. We have Kamala coming up in Miss Marvel. We had Elijah. Sorry, I think his name is actually Elijah, but Isaiah Bradley's grandson was in Falcon Winter Soldier. We have the twins, Billy and Tommy. We have there's at least one other one. We have we have young Loki, Kid Loki. We have a bunch of young Avenger potentials, Kate Bishop, et cetera, et cetera. So she's gonna come back again. I think they got a young actress, and I think they've been thinking very consciously about getting young actors and actresses so that they can do this without being like, oh no, they're 30.
Well, let's
Which is
not
what
have another lockdown, because then she
another
will be
one.
30.
Exactly.
Well,
COVID, yeah.
you know,
I agree, fellas. It's really, she was mid to me. Even though I love Xochitl Gomez, her portrayal of America Chavez. I was like, it's funny. I was watching. I was like, you know what? Doctor Strange is really good with kids.
too bad he's never gonna get married.
Spider-Man, America, like, what's up? But like, he's great with even with No Home, and in this, it was like her relating to them and being able to, be, as the funny thing of his arc, of course, as much as in the beginning as a selfish, asshole he was before, to see him being more giving in this is a big thing. It's a minor character thing with him, but you see it more so, and
Right.
just like with Tony, of course, with the first Iron Man, to see him become a mentor and all, and it's sacrificial at the end of his arc in his life and
Right.
in the MCU. Young Avengers, yeah. I honestly think America needs her own, or she needs her own series to really make me care more about the character, because her powers amazing, it's like that. And it's interesting because her character was created in 2011, so it's an interesting thing, because even somebody I went with was asking, she was like, who's that? I was like, that's America Chavez. Like, she wasn't created, she's created for less than 12 years, maybe 11 years ago.
Miles Morales too, same year.
Exactly. But think America wasn't as popular as Miles.
Oh, of course not. Never.
So that's the thing. Anybody who knows Miles, like, who Miles is automatically,
Right.
and they've given more Miles, of course, in every platform of Spider-Man, everything, they've given him more of an engine to,
Right.
so who he is. When America, it was like, all right, we're trying to figure out who his character is, and Doctor Strange, just a plot device. And like, honestly, Kate Bishop, I love because she was on Hawkeye, and I got to know who her character was. As annoying as she was from the beginning, by the end of it, I'm like, I love Kate. I'm like, she's cool. She's cool with me. Like, I would love to see more of her. Everybody else, like even Elijah and Falcon Winter Soldier, I'm like, he's just that kid with bad attitude. You doing with my grandpa? What you doing here? Get out of my face. I'm playing basketball. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, you have to really read about him to know what he's doing. And Billy and Tommy, just like what I said earlier, when I'm like, I'm waiting for their powers. Like, I was more interested in them seeing them on WandaVision.
Right.
And it's like, all right, we need more. It's like, I need more, I guess, to care more about her
Next
character,
generation.
about all the Young Avengers, really, not just her. All the Young Avengers to see, like, all right, what do I need more of, and how do I need it?
I think
Mutants.
what they I think that what I need the Disney Plus. I would like for. I don't need it. I would like for the Disney Plus channel series to be able to talk more in their either in their post credit scenes or whatever. I need them to exchange more with what the movies are doing, because yeah, maybe a featurette or two would help a lot of that, but I feel like there's a huge disconnect, because like if I had seen at the end of this movie something about Loki, or if I had seen in Loki something about multiverse of I don't know. It would have connected it more clearly and created what I think Marvel has always been really good at in the past, and still is sometimes. But like, I think for this movie in particular, I was like, this end credit scene or the post, the mid credit scene was confusing. I was like, I'm in because Charlize Theron, but like, in Charlize Theron, do we trust? But, but I was like, I don't know who this is, and there is no context. I looked her up afterwards, of course, but like, there's no context to give me clues as to who this person is and why I should care about her and Doctor Strange going off into wherever they're going. It just was not, there was not enough information given. Her character is never talked about ever before. Like, it just didn't make any sense as to why they would choose that to be the post-credit scene, to be like, get excited for the next thing, because that didn't have nothing to do with Love and Thunder. It had nothing to do with the Marvels. It had nothing to do with Quantumania. It had nothing to do with anything
that we know.
Unless they have proof that it's going to all of a sudden, unless in like I said, 5 movies from now, we may all be like being like, wow, they great. But generally speaking, they've done a much better job of setting up the next movies or the next installments than they did for this particular post-credit scene.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that.
I agree.
And even also just adding to minor point to my last point, the Young Avengers part, Ironheart, a huge thing, a huge series, of course. Everything coming to Marvel. They have her. You said when they're introducing her in Black Panther 2. So she's gonna be in Wakanda forever, which basically makes you look forward to, oh my gosh, it's a Young Avengers, a new Iron Man. It's like, oh, so we're giving her a series, so that's how we're gonna know more about her.
Exactly.
But back to your point with the post-credit scenes, I agree, because Clea, I had no idea the hell she was. I was excited because I saw Charlize, because I was like, finally get Charlize Theron, because she's there. I was like, oh my god, and I was like, who's that? I'm like, I don't know, but that's Charlize Theron. I know they
That's
got
what
her,
I said.
and I had to ask I was like, I had to ask my boy, who's also like a huge Marvel fan. I was like, who is that? Oh, it's Clea. That's his wife. I'm like, oh, that's his wife. I was like, so I guess him closing chapter of Christine was, I'm a,
right.
Break it with your girlfriend so you can find your wife. I was like, all right, cool.
Okay.
So by the end of it, I'm like, all right, but am I excited about more at this right now at this point in time? No, but like you said, maybe 5 movies from now, but like, oh my gosh, this made sense here. They didn't do it correctly. It wasn't like
it wasn't
like with Guardians of the Galaxy, or when we first saw Thanos. We first saw Thanos. Was it Avengers 1? We first saw Thanos at the end.
Yeah,
Of like,
you
Yeah,
saw
I
a
think
glimpse.
so.
Yeah.
yeah,
He like turns to the camera and like
yeah,
grins at the
welcome
camera.
death coming to Earth. It's like,
This is-
he's smiling.
yeah.
Who's that? And everybody's
Challenge
walking
Free
up like,
Josh
ah!
Brolin.
And if you want them off, you're like, who's that? Like, that's Thanos. He's the
I'm so
biggest-
I'm mad at Marvel for that, but go ahead. I'm mad at Marvel for that.
But but at least that was like a breadcrumb. It wasn't Easter. It was a breadcrumb. It's like, all right,
Breadcrumb.
this was coming. And every movie they had him like a couple of movies they had him like a little cameo. Then you got to him, which is the big payoff.
Right.
With this, I'm like, Clear's like, all right, let's go to Multiverse. Like, girl, you see, you got some new clothes on.
Right?
My cape is off. I'm trying to.
What's the passage of time?
Like,
This is what I'm saying.
girl?
What was the passage of time? How much?
It was the next
time-
day.
Was it exactly the next day? Because he just developed
The
an
eye at
eye
the
in the
end.
middle of his
It was
head.
like, it went from the eye to walking down the street, like
Just
Mr.
casual.
Rogers.
Like,
It
no,
was it was right after the eye came out. He got up, he started walking, and there she was. No, I'm
I guess I had a good day.
Why is
So,
Doctor Strange screaming in the sidewalk right now?
because
Now he's just walking around like
I
nothing
was
happened.
annoyed.
and now
I was
he
annoyed
and
with
then he
that.
just whips the
Crazy,
eye out
dog.
whenever he wants. It's like let's
Well,
go.
Hashtag Doctor
Yeah.
Strange crazy, y'all.
Yeah,
But
I
this is
see
what
that
I'm
picture,
saying.
girl, right here.
What I'm saying, clearly the passage of time was enough for him to get used to whatever this eye was and to be able to use it when he needs to use it or take it out or whatever, however it works.
That
So
was the same Raimi thing.
usually the post-credit scenes are not so involved with what we have just seen.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other thing. Like I was like, oh, this could be yesterday or like could be 6 months from then. I have no idea. So I was confused because there didn't seem to be like, it's not like we saw him in America and America was like, I'm 17 now. Like, we don't know, we have no idea what is happening. And honestly, if it wasn't Charlize Theron, I don't know if I would have cared.
Mm-hmm. True.
I mean, it could have been
yeah,
another. If
I
it had been
agree.
another actress that I recognized, I might have cared. I mean, I do love Charlize Theron, but there's other actresses that I also love that it could have been, and I would have been. I think the fact that we were more excited about the actress than the character
But that's
is
like
a little bit of an issue. But I
It's a
think you
huge
could have
issue.
plugged other actresses in there, and I would have been like, oh, that's cool too.
But it could have been cool. But again, this is fan service. We've been begging for Charlize Theron to be in the MCU for years. She should have been Black Widow. Don't change my mind. I don't care. So I find it hard to believe that it's weird because I can tell that they're like, oh, Charlize is in this. People will come see this movie because Charlize is in this. So they didn't think they had to do anything else. And for a lot of people, yeah, sure. That's accurate. But in terms of storytelling and what I usually find so engaging about the MCU, this did not do it for me in terms of post-credit scenes.
I agree.
So that goes back to what I said. I'm kind of mad at Marvel about, right? Because they're as great as they are with this cohesive universe. They have issues sometimes with bad misleading and sometimes deceitful misleading. So with Thanos, when they introduced him in Avengers, it was like when they talked about courting death. And if you know anything about Thanos and his love of actual death, the cosmic entity, that you were thinking that this is kind of where it was going, and that it went nowhere. Right. And talking about what's the character Charlize is playing? What's her name again? Clea.
Clea.
That character could go nowhere. Just like at the end of Doctor Strange, we thought we were getting something to follow up with Mordo, and it didn't happen. It could go nowhere. And just like at the end of No Way Home, they attached this movie as an end credit,
Yes.
and it had nothing to do with it. And that was them saying, people are going to see this. They're going to watch Spider-Man. We know that. They're going to love it. We're going to attach this because we don't know how many people are going to see Doctor Strange, but we're going to make them go see it.
And is
That was
Samuel L.
deceitful.
Jackson
It was
still
very
in
deceitful.
space? Like,
Yes.
is Samuel L.
Yeah.
Jackson still in space? Like
Yeah.
Yes.
we saw that little nugget was at the end of what, 5 movies ago, and we still have
Something
no
like that.
follow up on
But at least we
Sword
have-
or whatever.
I think
I
at
mean,
least with that, but
I'm sure that's a Secret Wars thing or whatever, but it's still,
Yeah.
it's still lingering out. There's a lot of There's a lot of threads.
I'm okay with that lingering out there because I think that they set it up enough, and they also briefly talked about it in the end of WandaVision. I believe there was a scroll.
They did. Yeah, there was a scroll. You're
But
right.
There was a scroll. So
is this Secret Wars or Secret Invasion? I think
there's
Secret.
Secret Invasion.
It might be. I might be
Yeah,
thinking
because
Secret Invasion.
my friend swears that it's going to be Secret Wars is the new thing, and I'm like, no, it's not, because that deals with the Beyonder, Battle World, and all kind of stuff. And Secret Invasion is the Skrulls infiltrating Earth, but
Yeah.
but they made Skrulls out to be the good guys. So what's going to happen? But
Right.
one last thing, as far as like at the end of No Way Home, and you saying like time period, we're not really sure. I watched No Way Home again recently, and I told you I was doing that with Phoenix because I wanted her to watch it to prepare for this movie, which didn't even have to happen, right? But I realized that at the end they had a rose obscuring the year on the tombstone that May died. And I was like, it said 20, and then I said, I want to see the year. And they purposely put that there because they don't want us to know based on the blip. They don't want us to know what year it's in because that affects what may have happened in other universes. So they kind of want it to kind of wash away. And I'm kind of a little bothered by that. I'm a little bothered by that.
I mean, that's interesting because I swear I know they don't say any of the years a lot, but I mean, I watch a lot of reviews and I watch a lot of people talk about it, and they're like, the year is 2024 or whatever they say. I don't know, but like people seem pretty firm about whatever the years are. But I mean, they can try to erase it all they want, but we can still tell time.
Their biggest movie jumped ahead 5 years, so
the math ain't mathing, y'all.
The math ain't mathing, everyone.
Right.
Anyway, this has been a great conversation. I had a great time with y'all tonight.
Well, my name is Michael Andreas. He, him. You can find me on Instagram at Michael_Andreas. Also Twitter, but I don't do Twitter, and probably will do it even less going forward for reasons that I don't want to get into on this podcast.
Omar here. That was funny. You can find me on Twitter at copyright, and you can find me on IG original_gamester. This was great. Had a great time talking about this movie. Loved it.
Absolutely. Same here. Sky's World. You can find on In Sky's World on Instagram and at Sky's World on Twitter. And this was fun. Definitely is getting to break down this movie. I've been waiting for days. So.
And as always, my name is Zuri Washington. I use she, her pronouns. You can find me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. Don't forget to follow us on IG at Super Black Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter at Super Podcast. Let us know your thoughts on the Multiverse of Madness. Was it as mad as you thought it was going to be? Did you want it to be madder? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, should you need heroes, we've got your back. We fear no topic we attack. If conversation is what you lack, you'll find it here with Super Black. Bye.